Hi, this is Rob from dnbalmanac.com with This Week in Dave Matthews Band History. This week is the 25-year anniversary of the 2000 Fall Tour kicking off in Minneapolis and Chicago. The band had played songs from an unfinished album during the summer tour and went back into the studio after the tour to finish it off. The sessions instead turned into the Everyday album, and the band hit the road almost directly from the studio. The tour started with a show in Minneapolis and then two at Allstate Arena in suburban Chicago. They didn't play any of the new Everyday album songs on tour, but the tour opener has the first Everyday outro in number 41, something that would continue for nearly a decade. The Chicago shows are best known for an impromptu Dave and Carter Halloween, and a show in Cleveland that was released as Live Track 64 caps the first week of the short tour. You can find all the set list for the Fall 2000 tour at dnbalmanac.com, where we never stop looking for information on older shows. Follow us on Facebook to get daily updates with everything that happened that day in the band's history.
Have you ever stopped to think about the fans behind a band? What is it about the music that keeps fans coming back for more? Or is there more? My name is Renae Lipsmeyer, and I am the host of this podcast, The Space Between Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the fans of the Dave Matthews Band. Each week, a fellow DMB fan joins the show to discuss their journey with the band. Welcome to The Space Between Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Space Between Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the fans of one band. And that one band is a band that's been making music for over 30 years. In 2026, we'll actually be celebrating 35 years with this band. And if you have not guessed it yet, it is, of course, Dave Matthews Band. We love them so much that I created a podcast that talks strictly about the fans. We don't necessarily talk about the band and the members and what they're doing next and statistics. We're focusing on just the fans behind the band because, of course, it does take lots of fans in order for a band to do 35 years of anything. So we talk about the fans, and each episode, a fan comes on to share their journey. How did they find Dave Matthews Band? Why are they still listening to him after so many years? Or if they just found him, like, what did they like about him? And what's kind of engaged them into this music? So, of course, every episode is a different guest, and this one is no different. I have a guest on the show to talk about his journey with Dave Matthews Band. So tell everyone who you are, where are you in the world, and just tell us something about you.
Awesome. So my name's Scott Sprague. I live in Utah. So I'm about, like 20 miles south of Salt Lake. And not only do I love Dave and Dave Matthews, I also love yacht rock. So
Hell yeah.
I do have a yacht.
Yes.
I have a yacht rock Instagram account. If anyone's interested, I can send it your way.
I will be your first person. I love yacht rock. We cannot have enough Michael McDonald in this house. Like, everything should be backed up by that. I've always wanted to try to get like yacht rock and Dave Matthews Band somehow like pushed together by AI or something and see what it would sound like. But I'm totally on board. I love yacht
Awesome.
rock. So take us back. Of course, we're going to talk about your history with this band. Take us back and tell us what year or what time, what decade were we in when you first heard of Dave Matthews Band?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm 44. So I was in high school, like during the 90s, when Dave was getting popular. So I'm originally from Northern California, but when I was in 8th grade, my family moved to Green Bay, Wisconsin. And so that was about 94. And so Dave was starting to get popular then. And I did have Under the Table and Dreaming. And then I bought Crash. And to be honest, I just thought it was fine. Like, I wasn't in love with it.
Yeah.
But people in the Midwest, they were really into it. And one big regret I have is in 98, so many of my friends went and saw Dave at Alpine Valley, and I think it was the first time he played there. I mean, we'd have to validate that, but I think in 98, it was in between my junior, or it was at the very end of my junior year, and I didn't go. And
Why did you not go?
I know, I don't know. And I've never been to Alpine Valley in Wisconsin, and I should have. But so many of my friends, they were just all in on Dave, and I wasn't really like, I thought it was, like I said, I had the albums, but I just wasn't all in. But around that same time, my stepdad, he lost his job and we ended up moving from Wisconsin to right by Lake Tahoe, Nevada. And
Wow.
so this was right before my senior year. So it sucked, right? Like I had to leave all my friends behind
Yeah.
and I
Terrible time.
moved. And so that summer before my senior year, like I wasn't really doing anything. Like I didn't really know that many people because school hadn't started.
Yeah.
And I was at Walmart of all places, and I saw two albums. I saw Before These Crowded Streets, which had just come out, and Red Rocks. So both of those albums were fairly new, and I said, okay, I'm gonna get them. And those two, I mean, Before These Crowded Streets especially, but those two albums are when I fell in love with this band. But what was weird to me when school started, like, and I think it maybe is more of a West Coast thing, like there weren't a lot of people into Dave like there were when I was in Wisconsin.
Right.
So, but I was all in, and so this was 99, and the internet was still kind of fair, like it wasn't like
Yeah.
it is now. And so I
Definitely
started
not.
get into like tape trading, right? Like, and I
Yeah.
remember I would go to the post office and I would have these tapes, and I would tell the lady like, "Hey, I need enough postage so someone can send these tapes back to me." I didn't have a CD burner. All I had was I had obviously CD player, but so I was just doing tapes because I couldn't burn CDs. And I remember
Right.
the first time I did it, the lady's like, well, "You are such a weirdo, like what are you doing just sending these blank tapes?" But I was like, "Oh, like this is what this band does, like they get people, this is how they've
Do you
grown."
know about that? Like, how did you get to even do you remember how you knew to do that?
So I mean, definitely was the internet. This was back when like everyone had America Online, like AOL. And
Okay.
I
Oh,
think
yeah.
I think there was groups, and there was one group I joined. It was called the Nancy's mailing list. And
Okay.
so this was like before, like now they have boards and stuff and Reddit. And I know like the ants boards were popular for a while. But what
Yeah.
we would do is you would just write an email and you would send it, and you could either elect to have whenever someone else did it, you would get an email, or you could just
Yeah.
wait at the end of the day and get one big email with everything in it. And that's kind of how I learned about it. And
Wow.
that's what people were doing. So I was a teenager, right, ready to go into my senior year of high school, and I felt bad for myself. Like I have no friends. I'm here, and those albums, like, and I know lots of people have said that they helped me through that time of my life.
Absolutely.
Like, and I was just all in with this band, and I would get all these tapes of these old shows, which is weird to say because it was 98, and the old shows were like from 93, 94, right?
Right.
Which, as we get older, like time is different. But, oh, this show's from 5 years ago. Like that seems so long ago. But I just fell in love with the band. And at the start of 99, Dave and Tim went on tour. And the closest show to me was in Sacramento, California, which is where I'm from originally. It was only about 2.5 hours away. But because I was so far away, I couldn't go to a Ticketmaster location. I had to do it over the phone to try to get tickets. And I remember it was a Saturday morning. I woke up early. I called, and I don't think it was Ticketmaster or whoever. I think it was actually the venue. It was called Sacramento Memorial Auditorium. And I got through and I said, I want 2 tickets. And the guy said, great. And, I didn't have a credit card, so I used my mom's credit card. Like she said, it was fine. And I
Yeah.
got 2 tickets, and I was so excited. And I got the tickets, and who knows, I wrote everything down. And so my mom said, okay, like you owe me money now. So I remember I went to the bank. I was so excited. I think at this point, Luther College had also come out. So I was
Oh,
listening
yeah.
to that a ton. So excited I was going to hear Dave and Tim. And so I go to the bank and I come home, and I could tell something was wrong with my mom. And I'm like, what happened? And she's like, hey, they called back. I gave you the wrong card. Like it actually declined. And I was
No.
so dumb. I was so heartbroken. But the cool thing is, like through the community, I was able to get tickets. Like somebody sold them to me, and I was able to go. So my first show, it was March 12th, 1999. I drove to me and a buddy. We drove to Sacramento. Um, and I like cherish that recording. And I know that the next night Dave and Tim went to Berkeley, and that ended up being like a live tracks. And then on the 14th, they played, and like Carlos Santana played with them. Like it was the first time. I mean, they
Yes.
actually called the song, I think they called it Rain on Me, which is now JTR, which is funny that they called that because they don't say John the Revelator ever, but that's what they said in that. And so it was that tour. But anyway, it was that tour that I went to. And I always try to tell people, like, if you can get a hold of the tape from the show I went to, like Dave messed up on 41, like he messed up really bad. And it's really funny to listen to because he talks about how he wished he could like hide behind the guitar and how he was so embarrassed. And you can find it on YouTube, but it's such a bad recording because it was somebody way far away
Sure.
recording it. This is before that they allowed video recording, so somebody had to, sneak it in. But I just like somebody got me the CD, somebody that recorded it, and I just listened to it so much, and I just loved it. And then they did tour again. The band did in later that summer, so he came back to Sacramento, and I went to that show. And I mean, that was, at least to me, like I didn't even care. Like I had my favorite songs, but I didn't care what he played. Like I was just so excited, and it was just. So that was 1999, and it was just amazing, and I was just all in. So then I went to my first year of college, and I did join the warehouse for 1 year, and I had all these big plans. Like I bought all these tickets because I was going to go back home after. So I actually came out here to Utah to go to school, but I remember I bought tickets for Shoreline. So that's in San Francisco.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I bought tickets for that. And then he was going to come to Sacramento as well. So I had tickets for these shows, and I was so excited. LDS, so I'm Mormon, right? And so one thing that we do, or a lot of us do, is when we turn 19, we go serve a Mormon mission, right?
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with that. So basically you pack up for 2. So for 2 years, we just go out and we serve, right? And you don't know where you're going to go. And so that was getting close. So I ended up selling those tickets. I was like, I just can't afford it. So I sold the tickets.
Right. Yeah.
But I still, like, I remember, going on the band's webpage and just refreshing to see what the set lists were those night and see what they were playing. And so this was, well, I guess this actually was 2000 because I left in 2000. But a funny story about that is, like, we knew that things were happening. We knew a new album was coming out, and we knew Steve Lillywhite was going to produce it, right? He produced Before These Crowded Streets. And at the time, we knew he was going to produce this new album. And the band was already playing some of those songs, like they were playing Gray Street a lot at that time. And so when you go on this Mormon mission, and again, this was 2000, you pretty much say like, hey, they say like, hey, we don't want you to be like wrapped up in like music and movies. Like we just want you to go out and serve. And so I was nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, like if this album doesn't come out before I leave, I'm not going to hear it for 2 years. Right. I mean, it's obviously different now, like the internet and everything, and so I was nervous. So I told you, like, I was on AOL. I found Steve Lillywhite's email address, and I remember it. It was sillywhite@aol.com. So I emailed him, and I said, hey, I know this is random. I'm going to be gone for 2 years. At the time, I didn't know where I was going. I actually ended up going to Guatemala for 2 years.
Wow.
But I said, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going to be gone for 2 years. And when is this album coming out? Like, if it doesn't come out before I leave, I can't, which is, thinking back, is such a stupid thing to say.
But also it was a concern.
Yeah. And I also said, I told you I love yacht rock. I also said, like, hey, has the band ever considered covering Africa by Toto? Like, I think that would sound amazing. Well, guess what? He emailed me back, which was crazy.
What?
And here's what he said. He said, thanks for the letter. The album will come out when it comes out. We don't do covers on albums. Like, we're never going to do a cover on an album.
Yeah.
And please don't email me again. That's what he said to me. But I mean, I didn't get offended. Like, I was like,
no,
okay.
I get it. But like, also, you were smart enough to get his email. So
yeah,
make it harder.
So as we know, like, Lillywhite sessions got leaked and all that. And that was after I left. So I left in November of 2000. I went to Guatemala for 2 years, and I really didn't know what was going on, but I did know when the Everyday album came out, because people were playing, I would hear I Did It, right? Like, I would go into someone's home and they would have like the Latin America MTV. And I got to be honest, when I heard that song, I was like, I don't know about this. Like, this is not the Dave Matthews that I was listening to when I left,
Very different.
I was like, I don't know if I like this song. Anyway, fast forward 2 years, I come home in 2002. And by that time, both Everyday and Busted Stuff, they had both come out. I hate to say it, I listened to Everyday and I was like, I do not care for this album. I don't like it. this is, I was expecting to hear Gray Street and all these songs, which was on Busted Stuff. But I was like, I don't know what has happened to this band, But now I really cherish that album. I really like it. Even though I didn't care for it at the time, I still listened to it a bunch trying to get into it. In fact, I was at the Gorge, this a couple of weeks ago, and I texted.
You were.
Yeah, I was there. Oh yeah, so I went to the Gorge, and when he played, I Did It on night one. I texted someone. I've never been so excited to hear a song I don't like. It was when he played that. It was pretty electric. But so all that happened. But what I do remember is, so my family moved back to Sacramento while I was gone. So school hadn't started back up yet. So I get home from my mission, and I met my future wife, but she was going to school. And so we were only we didn't know at the time we were getting married. So we only hung out for like 2 months, and then she moved to go to school, and I was still in Sacramento. And I do remember listening to The Space Between, and I would think of her. And it's so dumb to say, and I would get emotional, how much I missed her and all this stuff.
That's not dumb. That's sweet. I hope your wife hears that and is like, oh.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Guide Through Grief. I'd like to share a clip from the podcast so you can get a feel for what's in store.
It was definitely Dave Matthews Band. Their music became therapeutic. Steady as we go. There was one night Leslie was in the hospital when she was in a coma, and I had no other prayers. I had no other things to say. And I found myself just singing her that song a bunch that week. I really leaned into their music to get through.
I'm glad you had Dave.
Yeah. Well, she knows, I've got her a bracelet with that on it and stuff. And I have heard, I don't know, maybe that. So Dave hasn't played that song at the Gorge for 20 years. And I heard it's because his wife doesn't like him playing that because it's about a different lady. I don't know. Have you heard that? I don't know if that's true.
I have not heard that.
So
wow. We need someone to confirm that, don't we?
Yeah. But I think because, he'll always go to the Gorge with his kids because it's close to them, that he doesn't play it there. I don't know if that's true, but it does seem like he hasn't played it there for a long time. Anyway.
Wow. Good to know.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. So then we moved back to Utah. My wife and I get married, and Dave just does not come to Utah that often.
He does not, and I wish he would.
It's not a big stop for him. And so we got married in 2004. He did come in 2004, and I went and saw him there, and up in Salt Lake, and he did that show in 2004 was the first time he played Write a Song. So I got not a tour debut, but a song debut. So I was able to hear that. But then he would only come every couple of years. And I'm sad to say it, I kind of just fell out with the band. I just wasn't I wasn't staying. I would buy a new album when it came out.
Sure.
I will say with Stand Up was probably the same as Every Day at first. I was I just don't really care that much for this album.
Yeah.
But and then Leroy died. And it started making waves, and that's when I started really getting into the band again. And in fact, they were scheduled to play Utah, and they canceled the show because of Leroy's funeral.
Wow.
And so they canceled the Utah show because of that. Then the next year, they were supposed to come back to Utah, and Dave canceled the show because of his voice. Because they usually come here right before they go to the Gorge if they do come here to Utah. So because they're playing 3 nights at the Gorge, he's doctor's order said so for 2 years in a row they canceled. And the neat thing is they did come back the next year, and the show was free for everyone. So
wow.
If you already had tickets to one of the previous shows, you got, so basically everyone could go to the lawn for free.
Yes.
I think they made you pay tax or whatever.
Right.
So we went to that show. I think that was in 2010. Well, maybe. I don't know. I'd have to look it up, but they canceled 2 years in a row, and then they finally came. And then he just every 3 or 4 years he would come. And we were starting our family at that time, and it just it wasn't a big priority to me. So at that point I had only seen 3 or 4 shows, right? Again, you tell anyone I've seen Dave Matthews 4 times, they're oh my gosh, you're crazy, why would you need to see him so many times?
Yes.
So So we had 3 girls. Our oldest, she's turning 19 next month, and
Awesome.
then we have twin girls. So we have 3 girls. Our twins just turned 16 in July.
You're so busy.
Yeah, it is a crazy time of life. But when my wife and I were dating, I made her like a mixtape, right? Like a Dave Matthews
Yes, of
mixtape.
course. Yes.
And so her sister's husband, so my current brother-in-law, I remember he was like, "Oh, her name's Marin." Like, "Marin, what? Like, do you like Dave Matthews?" She's like, "I don't know. Like, this guy I'm dating, Scott, like he made this for me." And he's like, "Oh, I love Dave Matthews." And so we kind of bonded over that. And in 2003, Dave and Tim toured. I didn't go, but somebody made this like 7 CDs. They picked every show that they toured in 2003, and they picked like one song. And so I remember I burned that for him, and both of us, like, we just wore those CDs out. But, he moved away. And anyway, a couple of years ago, he moved back here to Utah. And that's when we're like, hey, like, we can do this. Like, let's start going seeing shows again. So the band came back to Utah in 2019, and we went. And it was my first time being in the pit to see Dave. Like, so it was the closest I had ever been to him.
Yeah.
And, you ask most people, like, it was probably just like an average show. Again, they were getting ready to go to the Gorge and stuff. But to us, it was like magical to both of us.
Of course.
And
Yes.
both of our wives were there. And admittedly, both of our wives are not really into Dave.
But they were there.
But they were there, and it was the best. And so we said, hey, we can do this. Let's start seeing more shows. Well, that was 2019. Of course, 2020 happened. So we didn't go to a show then. We didn't make it. It wasn't able to work in 2021, but 2022 is when we went to the Gorge, the two of us. He actually, for a while, was a professor at the University of Washington. So we flew up to Seattle, and he, showed me around. The funny story about that is, so we flew in Friday, and we're like, I'm not a huge camper. So like, I always joke with people, like, hey, if you want to camp, like, you can just hang out, and we can start a fire in my backyard, and we can get all smelly, and we can play games and do all this stuff.
Yes.
And then I'm going to go sleep in my bed. And
Yeah.
if you want, I'll wake up the next morning and not shower, and we can do. So I'm not a big camper. And so we stayed in Moses Lake.
Yes.
But we flew into Seattle, and we stayed in Moses Lake, which we probably shouldn't have done because you have to drive past the Gorge to get there. And all this crazy stuff happened. We were in the rental car, and a truck in front of us like blew a tire, and we hit the tire. And so the car was jacked up. So we had to drive down to, I think it's called Yakima. Seattle, like there's a little airport there, and we had to get a different rental car. And then we finally make it up to Moses Lake. So my brother-in-law was in charge of the flights and the rental car. I was in charge of the tickets and the hotel. And so through the warehouse, I think we just had seats night 1, but we had pit tickets for night 2 and night 3.
Awesome.
So that part was cool. But this is night 1. We go into Moses Lake. We go to our hotel, and it wasn't a hotel. This was a motel. It looked pretty sketchy. And I get out of the car to check in, and this lady comes running up. She's like, hey, are you here to check in? And I said, yeah. She's like, this is not even a motel anymore. They sold it. They're making apartments out of this now. And so we were freaking out, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is Labor Day weekend. How are we going to find a place to stay? Luckily it all worked out, and we found a hotel, and
wow.
We got to our hotel, then we drove back to the Gorge, and it was nice that we had seats that first night because we didn't have to worry about getting a good spot on the lawn or in the pit.
Right.
So we were able to crest the hill and look down. And so that year, 2022, night 1 was fun, but we were in the pit night 2 and night 3. Night 2 to me was amazing. One of their openers, her name was, I want to say it was Cerise. She came out and played She played Watchtower with them, which was amazing. And then night 3 was that was the night of the drones, right? And so it truly was like magical. I could even say spiritual, right? Like, it was just this amazing experience, and I just love that I was able to, share that with my brother-in-law.
Absolutely.
And
I've seen just videos of it, and it's spectacular on video. So I can't imagine being there.
yeah, it was so cool. We were just like, hey, let's just, we're not going to go see 20 shows a year, but let's just try to pick a place to go every year,
Right.
And so that was 2022. 2023, we actually didn't do any summer shows, but we did go to New York to Madison Square Garden, and we saw the 2 shows there.
Awesome.
I had never been to New York before. It was my first time, and we actually flew in separate for some reason. And so I just went to JFK and just figured out like the subway and all that stuff. And it was such an awesome time. And I had so much pizza. Like I was just like, anytime I see a slice of pizza, I'm just going to buy it. And
Why did y'all choose New York? I mean, obviously New York City is very attractive, especially during that time of year. But of course, there were other things on the fall list. Why New York City?
we just thought like it just, we did debate that because we're like, well, Madison Square Garden seems cool, but at the end of the day, isn't it just like an arena, like any other arena? It's not like the Gorge. It's not like the Hollywood Bowl. It's not like these awesome outdoor venues. But I mean, they didn't do a ton in the fall tour. They usually just do like 8 to 10 shows. So we just said, let's just do it. So we
Let's
just,
go all
but again,
out.
yeah. And because of like kids and stuff, like our wives and kids didn't come. It was just the 2 of us, but it was so much fun. And it just the Saturday, we just did everything we could, like the 9/11 sites, and
Yes.
we just did everything we could. I was exhausted at the end of the day. But then that night, their guest, like Trombone Shorty, came out with them, and it was a lot of fun. And so then we're like, okay, what are we going to do for 2023? And at this point, our wives are like, hey, like, do you really need to go see them? And so
Every
2020,
year? Come on.
yeah. So at the end, right around the Madison Square Garden show, they announced they were going to go to Vegas in 2023, and that's only about a 5-hour drive for us. So we said, okay, we'll do that. And I don't want to sound super negative, but it was probably the least favorite Dave show I've ever been to. It was an expensive ticket to get. It was a hard ticket to get, and they played like I'm probably exaggerating, but they played like 7 covers. And you could just feel in the crowd. It was just, this small little venue, and we were just all ready to go crazy, and it just never happened. And like we had planned, we got in Friday, we had planned to stay through Sunday, and Saturday morning we woke up and we're like, let's just go home. Like
Really?
I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but I've talked to other people and they say the same. Like the
Wow.
show, like we were just, because right before COVID, they played Vegas in 2020. And it seemed like that, like I couldn't get tickets for it. I tried to get tickets. I could not get tickets.
Yeah.
And people just say it was an amazing show. And so I was just so ready for 2023 for that to happen. And it didn't happen.
Just wasn't what you wanted it to be.
Yeah. And so again, I mean, it was still a Dave show. We still had fun, but I hate to say it was probably the least favorite show I had been to, but it was the first time that I bought a poster. And I want to say, I could be wrong, but I think it was the last time Warehouse did physical tickets. And so I have the poster framed with that ticket. So, I mean, that part is cool, but
It is cool.
yeah,
I miss the physical Warehouse tickets, or
yeah,
from anyone. I miss those. Those days are gone, I'm afraid.
yeah, it's cool to have to actually have the ticket. It was always difficult, like when you're trading people and stuff, like having to mail them and do all that stuff. It is nice now to have just the barcode or whatever, but it's still
Right.
like it's not the same. It's definitely not the same.
Yeah.
So that was 2023. 2024. I'm trying to think. Did we do? Maybe we didn't even do a show in 2024. And then fast forward to this year, 2025. So this year, I went to Jazz Fest, and it actually worked. It worked out for me because I had a work conference in New Orleans that same weekend.
Amazing.
And so it worked out. So I didn't fly in until I flew in Saturday night, and I went to go see Trombone Shorty that night, and like Jeff came out, and that was a lot of fun. And I got to meet a lot of people that I had never like met in person before, like just through social media and stuff.
Yeah.
I got to meet a lot of people. And then Sunday came, and if I go to like you can go on the D&B Almanac, and it will tell you like how rare the show was. Like that show actually gets like the lowest ranking of any show I've been to, but I had so much fun. I heard You Never Know for the first time, and I can't say that I love it, but I heard the song debut of Rashawn singing Word Up, right? Like that was the first time they had done that.
Yeah, you were there.
It was the first time I heard Alligator Pie, and for sure I was expecting they were going to play Louisiana Bayou, and they didn't.
Me too.
So
We got alligator
uh,
pie, which has that, still kind of Louisiana vibes, if you will. So
yeah,
I wasn't too sad by that.
yeah. So that was fun. And then there was a guy like two people down from me that he was on something and he just stripped down like totally naked and
No
we
way.
had to get him. Yeah, it was weird. I think like I don't do drugs, but I think sometimes when people do it, they just like stuff touching their skin, they can't stand
But
it. And
yeah,
so
I
I
guess
think
so.
he just got naked and we're like, "Hey, security, can you please get this guy out of here?"
He had his own little trip.
Yeah. And then I stayed through Wednesday for the work conference. So Monday night I think Monday is when I went to the Crawdad Festival where it had Eric Krasno was there and Jeff and Rashawn both played with
Yes,
him. And
yes.
I was right there and I actually talked to Rashawn and I was surprised. I said like, "Hey, can I get a picture with you?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." Like I heard he's not really into that, but so I got to meet Rashawn and I took a picture with him,
Awesome.
which was awesome. And then the next night I went to go see Humphreys McGee and Jeff was there as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'm kind of bummed. Like I do know that Dave went on Bourbon Street and played like the Preservation Hall. I didn't see that. And then he did play that same venue where Humphreys McGee was. He showed up the next night and played the Maker, but I was already out of town. But that's okay. So
Had you ever been to New Orleans before?
so I never have. And I tell people like even if you are not into the bands that are at Jazz Fest, you should go. Like I just had so much fun. Even if I didn't know any band there, it still would have been an amazing experience. Like just for the food, right? Like I had alligator, I had the oyster, I had all this stuff. They had like this strawberry lemonade that was amazing. I don't know if you tried it,
I did not
but
try that. I was there. That was this year. It does seem like
it was yeah,
eternity ago, but that was this year. And I had never been to New Orleans and also had never, of course, been to Jazz Fest. And so I was impressed by both. We loved the city. We soaked up all of the culture that we could, but we found so much culture at Jazz Fest. And we just had no idea how many different genres of jazz there were. And we tried to absorb as much as we could going from tent to tent, hearing everyone, because there was just an unlimited amount of music to watch and listen to and watch these people with their little umbrellas dancing around. I mean, there was
yeah,
no age limit that you were too old to do that for. I mean, I saw so many 80-year-olds with their little umbrella just dancing in their little parade lines. And it was awesome. And I just so well organized. I've been to other music festivals where it was just a shit show, and this
yeah,
was not that. So I think New Orleans does it right for sure.
yeah. It was so much fun. And yeah, I tell like people like if you just like or love music, try to go one time. And it's crazy that they do it 2 weekends. Like we were there for
It
weekend
is.
one, and then the next weekend I think they had like Pearl Jam um
Yeah.
and I was talking to the Uber driver and they said I don't remember what year it was. They said, yeah, like when Rolling Stones came, they actually had to turn people away because so many people were there for that.
Wow.
I couldn't imagine because I did go for a couple of hours on Saturday and I just wanted to see like, okay, where's Dave going to be? So I went to that main stage and it was Lil Wayne was playing and like I couldn't
Yeah.
move. Like I didn't see him at all, even though I was there. Like I was just trying to
Wow.
like move, there's so many
Yeah.
people, but I mean, you get a little nervous, like, okay, what if something bad happens? But at the same time, it's just so awesome to see so many people that just love music, right?
Yes.
And I know that Lil Wayne is from New Orleans, so it was amazing, and I would recommend it to anyone, Dave or not, right?
Yeah.
And so I did Jazz Fest, and then but it was just me, like I was just there by myself. And earlier that year, my brother-in-law, when we decided what show we were going to see, we said, okay, let's go to Indiana to Deer Creek. So that happened in July. Since we're telling our own stories, so I mentioned my daughters. Um, so one of my daughters struggles, right? And it's not uncommon, especially now. Um, but I as a dad, you just try to do whatever you can for her. And I remember one time I sat her down and I said, hey, and I'm not going to say her name in case she listens, she'd be embarrassed, but I would say, hey, I struggled a little bit, like when I was right before my senior year, and kind of what I've explained to you, and I said this album, and before these credits, she's like this helped me through, and I played Pig for her, right? I was like, this song, like I know it sounds dumb, but this song helped me through, and really her response was like, yeah, like I listen to like Olivia Rodrigo when I'm struggling, or I listen to Taylor Swift or whatever. So it didn't really resonate with her. Well, at the end of June, she felt hopeless, and she made a choice that could have had a permanent consequence. But luckily, we were able to get her to the hospital in time. And we stayed the night with her, and the hospital basically said, like, hey, like, you guys aren't going to be able to leave for a couple of days. And so, me and my wife, we decided, hey, I'm going to go home first and sleep, and then we're going to switch. So I get in the car to go home, and I swear, when I tell you, no prompting of mine, I put my phone like on the holder, and Spotify just started playing Pig. I did not have it do that. And so, I broke down in tears. Like, it was just, everything just came to a head at that point. And I just drove home crying. And then, she came home, and it was time to decide, like, hey, I've got this trip with, your uncle coming up. Do you want me to go? Like, I'm fine saying no. And my brother-in-law was very cool. He's like, you can say no while we're at the airport, and it's fine. We won't go. And so, I talked to my daughter, I talked to my wife, and said, hey, like, I did feel bad going, even, but at the same time, like, we had already paid for everything, right? So
Right.
it's not like I could get the money back or anything, right? And so she's like, no, Dad, I think you should go. My wife said, yeah, I think you should go. So we flew to Indiana. We actually, again, I'd never been there, and we were kind of late to the party, so we couldn't find, and again, I'm not a camper, so I know a lot of people camp there. We didn't do that. And so Deer Creek, right, is about 45 minutes away from Indianapolis.
Yeah.
But we stayed in Indianapolis at a hotel there. And being who I am, I was kind of grumpy because the hotel charges $45 a night to park. And
Yes.
we did schedule on Saturday to, like, go float down the White River. Like, I heard that's something that people did. And we were late getting there. And so we were kind of worried, like, okay, like, the show's tonight. Are we going to make it in time? And it was fun. Like, it was fine, but there was, like, I felt like we were moving, like, not even half a mile per hour. And the guy, he's like, okay, once you get to this bridge, you're like halfway done. And it took us 3 hours to get to that bridge.
No.
And so the last bit of it, like, we were just walking and pulling each other, right? Like, we're like, we have to hurry up and get this done. But anyway, that was on Friday, and we made it to the show, and we had pit passes for both nights. And we didn't get selected for early entry. Like, I've never actually been selected for that, but if you have a warehouse ticket, like, you're still going to get a pretty good, if you want to be in the pit, you're going to get a pretty good stuff. So we were there, everything was going great. And then, the sun sets, and then, of course, Dave starts playing Pig. And of course, I just started
right out the gate.
No, it wasn't the first song. It was actually more towards it, but he played it. And I was so embarrassed that I was crying that I put my sunglasses on, even though it was dark. And for me, it was extremely therapeutic. It was, and so I always say, like, well, I don't always say, but recently I said, I kind of joke, like, you'll see, like, girls, they'll go to a Taylor Swift concert and they'll hold up that sign that says, your music saved me. And you think, like, whatever. It's true.
It's
like,
true.
I'm never, ever going to tell somebody the music they listen to is dumb, or the movies they like, or whatever. Like, and I'm sure, I've never met Dave. Like, I don't know that I ever will. But, and I think that I would think that he would have to know, like, how much his music has touched people, how much it's helped people through hard times. I'm sure he knows. I'm sure people have told him. But I wish I could tell him, I wish I could let him know that, to me, like, how special that was to me that night, that he played that song. So
I think that part of having you come on and tell your story is that so that it's documented. I'll be completely honest. Does the band know about this podcast? 100% they do. I know they do. So there's a slight chance they are listening and will hear your story. So there's that, but also everyone else that hears it, which is the main part for me. None of this podcast is ever about getting a message to the band or getting a message to whatever. It's just sharing that experience that music is such a tool in healing, and music has played a big part in saving people's lives. And because that sounds so strange to so many people that don't get it, right? It only makes sense to those of us that have experienced that and who have walked through some things, and that music at that time gave us the strength to just keep going. And that sounds frou-frou for a lot of people, but it is actually proven that music stimulates a response in your whole body. It's not a joke. It's not foo-foo. It is things that are really happening. And so, Scott, I'm so glad that you brought up Pig, because that is a song that people do speak of often.
Mm-hmm.
It's just got all of the ingredients inside of it to remind you, don't burn the day, and that life really is so short if we think about it. I mean, if we're good and we live to be 100, that's what, most people's goal is, 80 to 100, something like that. And in that lifetime, there are parts that go by slow, there are parts that go by really quickly, but it's those reminders in song, like in Pig, to not burn the day. There's so many times where we're like, I wish I could just fast forward this week, but we have to savor every second. Because not only is it the second of our life, but it's the second to be that dad to your daughter, to be that husband to your wife, to all of these things that we are for other people, and to seize every opportunity we can to be there and to give love to other people. And I know that that's what it sounds like you're doing with even your daughter. Just what can I do as a parent to make that experience better? And she does have that music that does that for her. It may not be Dave Matthews Band ever, right? But there is so many different kinds of music that does this exact same thing for people. And for us, it just happens to be Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that. And, a thing that I've told my girls recently is, my whole life, I've always said, once this point in my life happens, life is going to get easier or life is going to get better, right? When you're a kid, once I graduate high school, like, oh, things are going to be so much better.
Right.
Or once I get this new job or whatever. And it's usually not true, like something else is going to come up. Like life is not
Always
easy.
is.
Life is hard.
Not easy.
And if you're spending your whole time just like, oh, I'm not going to be happy now, but I'm going to be happy then. When are you going to be happy?
No, that's right.
And, Dave Matthews and his music helped me back in 1998, 1999, but it's also helped me now in 2025. And, I would love to let him know that. And I don't think I would personally be able to say that, but I like you saying that you think that he knows that he's done that. Like, I think that that's awesome. And
I do. I believe that. I really do.
And again, like, I've kind of changed my ways. I joke that I'm a grumpy old man, but when people
well, you're not old, because I know how old you are, and I'm older than you, so you are not old.
Well, the gray in my beard probably says otherwise, but like whatever, if someone's passionate about music or movies or whatever, like I'm all in with them. Like if that brings them joy, even if it's something I'm not into, like who cares? Like it's
right.
Making them happy, and that's amazing. So I guess that's my Deer Creek story. Night 2, there was like a big storm, and so we were like, huddled under. Were you there this year?
I was there, and night 2 was very rainy.
Yeah, but it was still like, so I think the show was delayed a little bit, but I actually had never been to an outdoor amphitheater where it's covered like that. Like here in Utah or like the Gorge, right? It's just totally open, even where the seats are at, and over the pit, like. And so I had never been to an amphitheater like that. I think that it's probably more common, in the Midwest where it rains.
Oh,
and
sure.
Stuff. And I also did find out what corn sweat is. I didn't know what corn sweat was, and I was just like, why is it? Like I had lived in Wisconsin. It was a long time ago. Yeah. Do you know what it is?
I don't know.
There is a scientific term, but it has to do with like the water that the corn brings. It just makes it more humid when there's corn around, because somehow it takes in the water and it like releases it. And so there is a scientific term. I couldn't tell you what it is right now, but corn sweat is
surrounded by magic at Deer Creek.
Yeah.
Deer Creek is one of my favorite, because you get 2 nights, and because it's just so crazy that it is literally like cornfields all around you. But it's always a good time. Deer Creek is one of the meccas. If you tell someone that's been listening to the band for a long time, like write down your 5 must-dos, Deer Creek is going to show up. Even though it's not
Yeah.
called that anymore, it's called
Right.
Ruoff Music
Yeah,
Center, which
whatever.
sounds very
Yeah.
sophisticated, but we will never call it
Yeah.
that. We'll call it
Right.
Deer Creek because I
Yeah.
guess that's what it used to be called a long time ago. But so Deer Creek, and then somehow you made a shift and you also made it to a really big venue towards the end of
Yeah.
at the end of tour, which was the Gorge. Tell us, how did you decide to go back, and aren't you glad you did?
Yeah, definitely. So I have volunteered quite a few times with Head Count. I don't know. Are you familiar with them
Yeah,
at all?
yep, I am. Yeah.
So I volunteered with them quite a few times here in Utah. So never for Dave Matthews before. But
Huh.
the first time that I did it, I think it was here in Utah. It was Noah Kahn came. And I was actually wearing like my Gorge shirt. And the guy that like is the team lead here in Utah is like the Gorge. Like, I go up there like I'm the team lead for the Gorge shows. And so I
Wow.
was like, really? Like that piqued my
Tell me more.
interest. And yeah. And so he's like, yeah, as it gets closer, like, let's talk and see. And so, they announced the Gorge, and I would go on Headcount's website like every day to see if it had been released. And it was. So I signed up real quick, and then I texted the guy, and he's like, yeah, I'm the team lead. He's like, let's plan on it. So, we just drove here from Utah. We just drove up. It's like a 13-hour drive, and they just put us like in the employee campground.
Okay.
Like, so here's what I was worried about with camping. I was like, oh my gosh, like, am I gonna have to wait in line for like a porta potty, or like, am I
Right.
gonna have a nice shower? So the employees do get like, there's one flushable toilet per gender, and the showers are fine. And so once he told me that, I was like, all right, let's do it. So we drove up. They put us in the employee lot, and so the Head Count partners with like Reverb as well, the water bottles. And
Yes.
so that first night, there was like 20 of us that went in, and they have us go in like an hour early before the doors open. My understanding is the guy that runs the Reverb for Dave, like he's like actual like a band employee. And so
Wow.
he had us like crest the hill. He's like, let's get our pictures in right now. And it's just fun to me. Like, you're going around talking to people like, hey, are you registered to vote? And most people are like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
registered. And you just say like, so this year they were giving away a drum head signed by Dave and the band. And so you just say
Wow.
like, hey, that's great that you're registered. If you either check your registration with me, or you send a link to a friend to check their registration, like, you get entered into this contest.
Wow.
And at least head count, they're not like, they're not affiliated with any party. They just want people to get out and vote.
Yeah.
And, Dave wants that too, right? And so
Yes.
it was just a lot of fun. Just like, I talked to so many people, and I got to meet so many people doing that. I guess if there is any downside, is that they do make you work up until Dave comes on. So you don't get to hear the openers. Well, I mean, you can hear them, but you don't get to see them.
Right. Right.
And then like, as soon as Dave comes on, you kind of pack up, and they give you lawn tickets, right? But because we're the
Yeah.
first ones in there, like, we can put our blankets down pretty quickly, like
Wow.
before the mad rush. So that night I was on the lawn, and I did it. They played Break Free with the horns, which they haven't done forever, so that was awesome. And it was my second time at the Gorge, and I didn't do the lawn the first time. And I'm not really a lawn guy, but I think everyone should do the lawn at least once at the Gorge. Like,
Yeah.
it was amazing. So that was night one. And then night two, we actually were able to get pit tickets for night two.
What
And so
are
again,
you telling me right now?
like, we had to work. So we were there, and Dave starts playing Watchtower. And that's kind of when we started packing stuff up. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I personally don't know of a time they've ever opened a show at Watchtower. Like, I'm sure they have. And so anyway, by the time I got down to the pit, like, that's a pretty big pit, and I was pretty far back, but I was still, down there in
Very
the pit.
close. Yeah.
And I don't know if you've talked to other people that were at the Gorge this year, but
Yes.
they played a couple of songs, and then they started going into Before These Crowded Streets. But we did, at least I would say most people did not know what was happening.
Of course not. There's no way you could have.
And so they had, Bela Fleck came out and did Last Stop. And then they did Don't Drink the Water. And I would say when Don't Drink the Water started playing, you could hear the buzz in the crowd. Like, is this happening? Right? Is this happening?
Yeah.
And then they played Stay. And I said, I was like, I think that they're doing it. And I think that everyone knew for sure once they played Halloween, because they don't play Halloween in the middle of a concert.
Right. Right.
And so once that happened, like, everyone knew. So night 3 was my 20th show, but I will say night 2 is my top show I've ever been to. I mean, it was the album that made me fall in love with the band. And they played it in entirety, which they had never done before. It was amazing.
You'll never forget it. You'll never forget it.
I will never forget it. It was just amazing. And, I mentioned to you that like my wife isn't like totally in. She's like, I can't imagine seeing this band 3 nights in a row. And like, you're just going to hear the same songs over and over. Like in her defense, every time she's seen Dave Matthews, it has been in Salt Lake. It's been a Tuesday night. It's been people that have disposable income. They're like, hey, I might as well go see Dave. I remember that guy, But you go to the Gorge or you go to Deer Creek. These are people traveling. They're committed to see these shows, and the atmosphere it's different. And for anyone that hasn't been, the atmosphere is different. And I texted my wife that night and I was like, I'm going to tell you something you're not going to care about, but this is what they're doing tonight. And I just said like, hey, I love you, but I love being here and I want so badly for you to come here with me like sometime, and that would just like be like the best thing for me to have, and this sounds corny, but I miss my brother-in-law too. Like he's my buddy when it comes to these shows.
Of course.
And his oldest son plays football in high school and it just didn't.
Difficult time.
He's a senior, so I think he's going to be free next year. But
hey, start planning in 2026.
I was just like, please come with me. Like, if we have to spend a ton of money and try to get an Oasis tent, like I will do it. Like whatever we need to do for you to come. And like we on Sunday, like we went down to the river and I took pictures. I'm like, look how cool this is. Like you got to come. So we'll see.
So beautiful.
See if that happens.
You know what? I'll tell your wife because I know she's going to listen to this. So you got to do Scott a favor. So next year, 2026 is 35 years, which would be a great time for anybody to the Gorge.
Definitely. Another thing that I always say is like, we just don't know
everything.
Yeah. I mean, we really don't know when these guys are going to hang it up. Like, I do think Dave is going to go until he can't. But I mean, Carter is not a young man anymore, like.
No.
The band definitely has changed, through the years.
Yes.
But, that core of Dave, Stefan, and Carter, like, eventually they're going to have to hang it up, And
eventually
so
they do.
Let's do it while we can,
You got to, seize the day again.
Yeah.
We're not promised tomorrow with this music. We're all aging, right? And again, pushing 35 years in a profession of any kind is a lot, but it's such a physical demand from them to tour. Just that alone is such a big deal. Just the time spent away from your family. And as we age, that comes new things that we didn't even know we were going to love, like grandbabies and all the things that come after our children are grown and have fled the house. And so we don't know what life is going to look like. So while you can, do it, because we don't know what tomorrow looks like or next year or anything like that. I always tell people, like, we don't know how much longer we have with this band. So do it now. Don't say, well, in 2 to 3 years, I'm going to try to see them.
Right.
Well, 2 to 3 years, they may not be around anymore.
Yeah.
So get it while you can, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully she'll just be, I'm sure she will. She knows how much this means to you, your family, and just to have them all there is going to make it so much different. So this feeling different, to have, the ones that you love, but also the thing that you love in the most beautiful place in the world is just, it's all consuming. And so everybody wants that.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, this is just my opinion. I think that next year at the Gorge is going to be busy because of what happened this year. I think there's people with FOMO, right? That they're just like, oh man, I missed that. And so I think next year the crowd is going to be bigger. But I guess if I could just say a couple more things, I think that they're going to come play the Sphere in Vegas next year. Like that's the rumor that's going around. So if they do, I for sure will be there. Like I said, it's a 5-hour drive for me. Anybody that's listening to this, come say hi to me if you see me. That was another awesome part for me at the Gorge, was just meeting so many people and, just hearing their small story. You don't get to talk to them for very long, but just hearing, and just getting to share that with them. Like there's always that joke. Whenever I go to a concert, I'm with 20,000 of my best friends that I'd never met before.
Yes.
So if he does do the Sphere, I think he will, and you see me, please say hi. I love meeting people. I love giving people a hug. And then I do have to plan, like my brother-in-law and I were thinking, like, where should we go next year? Maybe we'll try SPAC. I do worry about SPAC because I know it's a hard ticket to get, and if you're going to invest all this time and not get tickets, I don't know. But we're
You'll
going
get
to pick
tickets.
someplace. We're going to pick somewhere to go for sure, and then hopefully we'll do the Gorge. And then if they do go to the Sphere, I mean, Vegas is not the same as it used to be. Again, I'm grumpy, and it's super expensive now, and
It is
it
really
bugs me that
expensive.
you've got to go to a casino and pay $50 to park there. It's like, hey, I'm going to spend money in your casino. You don't. But anyway, my favorite tacos in the world are down in Vegas. It's called Tacos El Gordo. Everyone should go there. They're like the best street tacos I've ever had. But I hope they do the Sphere. And whether I'm able to volunteer with head count or just, go on my own time, it's going to be hard not to get me there if they come.
It's
So
going to be a hard ticket to get in general,
yeah,
I think, if
I
they
think
do.
it
But
will.
also, if you do the Sphere, it won't be a one-night thing. It's going
Right.
to be something that's done multiple nights because they know not all of they know their fan base well enough to know that people will come out of the woodwork for these tickets, and it will be a hard ticket. It will be an expensive ticket if it does happen. And I feel the buzz in the air. Like everyone's like, what are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? Are they going to do it?
Yeah.
Who knows? We don't know. But if they do,
Yeah,
we're definitely on the list for trying to get tickets. I think
for
most
sure.
people will want to, because that'll be just a
Yeah.
completely different experience than we've ever had before with them. So, hopefully 35 years does that for us. And that's the
Yeah.
big celebration, right? Those are the candles on the cake. Is what a candle, the Sphere, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Here's hoping. I think it will happen.
Yes.
The rumor is it'll be spring, like around May, if they do it. So
Save your
yeah,
money
hopefully they
now,
would.
people.
Yeah. Hopefully they do maybe they would do a couple. I don't know what they would do, but if they're going to do because I know Fish and Dad and Co. They'll do they'll do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which we know how they do it. Like they're not going to repeat songs, right?
I
But
know. So
like
I would want all
I
4 nights.
I know. But then I think the Backstreet Boys are there right now. Like they're doing the same set every night. But
Oh,
same
right.
thing. Even people are saying it is amazing to go. Even I don't even like the Backstreet Boys, but it was an amazing show, or the Eagles, or whoever.
Sure. Yeah.
Hopefully they do it. Hopefully they do it, and hopefully I'll see you and everybody there,
Yes,
and we can have a good time in Vegas, as good as a Mormon boy
definitely.
can have.
Definitely. Well, all you need is the music and the people that go along with it to have a good time. So,
Yeah.
there's that. Well, Scott, I can't thank you enough for just being willing to share your story. So many stories out there, and everyone's story looks a little bit different, but we're all talking about the same thing, which is simply just our voyage with Dave Matthews Band and what that's looked like. So, again, thank you so much for helping me document this special time in music history. I really believe this is music history, and our part of it is really important in order to get that whole picture of who Dave Matthews Band is. So thank you so much for helping me document this.
Of course, and thank you for even asking me. I appreciate it, and I think most people are probably a little nervous, but I had a blast, and it's fun, just remembering what the band means to me, and it's fun listening to your podcast and hear what it means to other people as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Guys, if you are listening to this on a podcast app, just know that you can watch almost all of the episodes, except for maybe the first season, almost 200 episodes, and you can watch most of them. Just head over to YouTube and click the space between podcast is all it is. You can find us on all social medias, of course, too, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and I have an email that's very easy. You don't even have to write it down. It's Renae at the space between podcast, dmb.com. So if you're interested in being on the show, sharing your journey, sharing some insight, email me. We have some fun things planned here at the podcast. We're going to have some new things coming, kind of like a show that will episode every month or so. So it's going to be a special space between that's coming up, like a special edition of the space between that's coming up. If you want to know more, just follow the podcast. You never know what's going to happen. Make sure you're following them all so that you hear that little bell or your phone ring whenever a new episode is coming out, because in this dead season that we have right now of just not having a band to chase and not knowing anything, I was like, you know what? We're really going to put out some episodes during this time where people are just like, oh, we're going to learn more about the fan base. So hit that button to follow. In the meantime, guys, until the next episode, peace, love, and Dave Matthews Band.